I want to tell you about a college in America because there's one college in this country that only graduates one person at a time, and only every 4 years. It's the Electoral College. And some people want to close that down. In fact, all 480 of the Democrats who are running for president say they want to get rid of it. But let me be fair, there are some Republicans who support that as well. And you may think that the Electoral College is an archaic and outdated process that needs to be retired, along with 8-track tapes and AM transistor radios. Some of you apparently still have your 8 tracks and still probably listen to an AM transistor, but that's another story. But like a lot of things in our Constitution created by the Founding Fathers, there is a reason they created a representative republic and not a pure democracy. So before you say, let's kill the Electoral College, let's understand why we have one. The founders feared a tyranny of the majority, a nation in which some voices were drowned out and drummed out of the entire process. It was the rationale of us having 3 separate but equal branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. And that went along with a complicated but brilliant set of checks and balances. And instead of having a president elected strictly by popular vote, they intentionally created the Electoral College, by which a president is actually elected by the electors in each of the states. And it's based on the votes of the people in that state, which have specific electoral votes, and that's based on the size of their population and congressional representation. So it is therefore possible that a candidate could receive a larger number of votes and still not be president. Now, several years ago, when I was much younger, and of course knew everything, I too thought it was time to ditch the Electoral College. But I got older, wiser, and then personally was on the ballot in 2 presidential elections, and I found myself amazed at just how smart those founders were. The most gifted political cartoonist alive today is a friend of mine by the name of Michael Ramirez. He is a 2-time Pulitzer Prize-winning syndicated cartoonist for the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Creator Syndicate. And his brilliant map of what the election would look like without the Electoral College shows that a president would be elected by voters in only about 4 states. Look at your screen. That's what the map would look like without the Electoral College. And most of America would be rendered virtually voiceless and voteless. That means that candidates would never visit most of the states, nor would voters in those states ever see or hear any of the political messages from the candidates or the parties. Now, Democrats whine that Hillary won the popular vote, and you can see the map. But what they fail to tell you is that she primarily won big in 2 mega-liberal, solidly Democrat states, California and New York. Her margin of popular vote was completely in those 2 states. In fact, the actual voting map of the 2016 election shows that President Trump won overwhelmingly in the majority of counties across the U.S., but lost on the fringes of the East and West Coast. Just look at that map. All the red represents the counties voting for Donald Trump. The blue represents those who voted for Hillary. Now, the founders were wise beyond their own understanding. By creating the Electoral College, a person who wishes to be president has to win a combination of states throughout the entire nation. What that does, it forces the candidate to visit many states and personally meet farmers, school teachers, factory workers, construction workers, people who work in offices, as well as unemployed moms and dads. A system that only focuses on just the 4 most populated states, that means presidential candidates would do 2 things and only 2 things: go to high-dollar donor events and hobnob with the swells who have all the money, and then they would take that money and they would spend it advertising in just those 4 states. Most of America would never see a candidate, would never hear an ad, they'd never see volunteers mobilize in their communities, and you'd pretty much be letting California and New York, and to a lesser degree, Florida and Texas, elect your president. You wouldn't really matter. With the Electoral College, a candidate has to figure out how to win enough states to arrive at the magic 270 Electoral College votes. And it actually means that all of America matters in the election of a president. So when you hear it said, let's get rid of the Electoral College, ask what other of your protections written into the Constitution would those people want to get rid of as well? And then just say no.